2020 is the year we're all going to remember for the rest of our lives. It all started before we could guess the full impact of what we were facing back when the coronavirus didn't seem so dangerous. We thought we knew what change looked like. But 1.3 million people have lost their lives because of the virus. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their jobs, and the world completely changed in every way possible. So guys, from education to public transport, here are the things that 2020 changed forever. Number 8. Shopping. Shopping is one of the things that changed since the coronavirus pandemic, in every form possible. What was once the world's most popular and visited shopping centers became something approached with fear. While many shops and malls have reopened, nothing is the same, and experts claim that we will need a long time before retail returns to normal. And the worst thing is that some aren't even sure if that's possible. There are some people who took the risk, went, and are still going to shopping centers and retail parks in the last few months. But this doesn't change the fact that the numbers are significantly down on what they once were. And while some people stay at home and fear keeps them from the shops, people all over the world are constantly discussing the issue that shopping is a habit, and according to some, an irrelevant one. According to behavioral boffins, it takes 66 days to form a habit. So during the pandemic, most shops were closed for more than 66 days. Therefore, the people who consider themselves as extreme shoppers have probably lost their desire to go get stuff. Will shopping ever come back to the way it was? Only time will tell. But feel free to share your thoughts about this in the comments. Number 7. Wearing a mask. The sight of people wearing masks is now the new normal, but we can also say that it's not common enough. Wearing a mask divided people into two groups. We've seen people protesting about wearing it, about not wearing it, and wearing a mask is definitely the number one advice from all official sources. And in the last few months, the number of people wearing masks has increased. Despite the fact that some people are not wearing their mask the correct way and have no idea how to wear it or what's actually for, since many people are seen wearing their face mask underside of their chin. Also, the nose is a part that needs to be covered is a thing some people need to understand. Do you guys wear a face mask? Number 6. Public transport. Public transport has also changed in the last few months. Buses, trains, and trams now have a different way of taking people from point A to point B. While public transport never stopped working, it is a known fact that it's not used by as many people as it was before the coronavirus pandemic. And many people are scared to travel on packed public transport alongside other people since the chance of getting the infection there is probably the highest. Since public transport options are now limited, one thing that has positively changed since the pandemic is that many people have decided to change their way of traveling and started riding a bicycle, the friendliest way of traveling. And in this group, we have people who had never considered using a bike. So COVID somehow changed the world into a better place, as we can see these people zipping about the place on 2 wheels. The spread of COVID-19 has seriously reduced vehicle traffic. Passenger vehicle traffic overall in the U.S. was down 48% for the week beginning March 21st, compared with the same period in 2019, according to INRIX, a service that collects traffic data. Let's not forget the cleaner air we have after the reduction of driving cars and using other transport. Number 5. More political melodrama. Many people's views have changed on what the election is about in 2020. The global economy is like never before, and people all over the world are coping with it, and the worst thing is that the worst is yet to come. Politics are definitely one of the things that has been through so much change in 2020. Where to start? The internal politics of the United States, the trade between the United States and China, pressures between Iran and the United States, Brexit, the Russian Federation, and Ukraine, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, and of course, North Korean nuclear proliferation. COVID has somehow managed to put all these things aside, and we can see on the news since the pandemic is COVID-related. As polls and campaign momentum shift day to day, and America faces racism after the killing of George Floyd, candidates are increasingly finding themselves in strange waters. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed everything about politics, and when we say everything, we mean from how the campaign is managed to how we vote, to what we once considered for good. COVID has cut conventions, relegated fundraising, and campaigning to the digital realm, and made many states quickly change how people get and submit their votes, with inconsistent and possibly disastrous results. So guys, 2020 has definitely changed politics forever. Number 4. FaceTime with your doctor. It's unbelievable how much has changed in just a few months' time. Telemedicine was not so known before the coronavirus, but now it seems like that's the future for healthcare. Most states in the USA and countries around the world did not even allow it, and that changed. Post-COVID, it is now a bona fide use for medical access for patients and providers. Reimbursement and interstate telemedicine are now provided, and we expect to see much more of the telemedicine in the future. Would you like to come into the doctor's office or be seen via televisit? Is the question we hope we don't need to hear. Another thing to follow is a new and fast-tracked infectious disease diagnosis and vaccine creation ecosystem, which will be online. Since in the future, if another pandemic occurs, we can't deal the way we are dealing with COVID now. As we have all seen, COVID-19 is having an unusual impact on the world. It is taking huge losses on patients, as well as healthcare staff and systems. But if we look at the bright side, can we actually use this moment to make a better healthcare system and accelerate the basic changes needed in healthcare? Can we change the way healthcare is being organized, distributed, and delivered? Number 3. Education. We clearly need to pay more respect to the teachers that are going through these complicated and difficult times. They truly deserve it. And just like everything else, we needed to try and educate our kids for a couple of months to understand how hard it is and how unappreciated teachers are. So, with a growing number of colleges and universities studying online classes, numerous parents and students are filing petitions against online learning. Other schools are being required to make huge budget cuts, and 54 university administrators have taken voluntary salary reductions for the coming economic year. The worst thing is that many universities will not survive the pandemic, and for those that remain, many changes will come. Universities all over the world are expected to try and increase their offerings by selling still more online classes. When school closure is instituted as a containment measure, such alternatives as distance education and online learning are used as choices in some countries. Yet, less than half of families around the world have internet access. 73% of urban households own television. Worldwide, there are currently more than 1.2 billion children in 186 countries affected by school closures due to the pandemic. Number 2. Working from home. The pandemic created a work-from-home environment, and we all thought working from home would be the easiest thing we had to deal with in 2020, but no. While for some that experiment has turned out just fine, other people are struggling with the change. However, people have found out new and more practical ways to accomplish things. Meetings around the world have been quicker and less common. Day-to-day costs have fallen, and all the time we wasted at our jobs before the pandemic has been replaced with sleeping, eating, exercising, scrolling through social media, spending more time with our children, and occasionally working. Many Americans were previously couch laborers before COVID started. Prior to the coronavirus outbreak, about 29% of college graduates worked from home at least some of the time. But is working from home the future? Should we expect these changes to continue in the following years? Only time will tell, but it's apparent that the infrastructure we can have in many, but not all parts of the world can deal with hundreds of thousands of people logging on from their homes at the same time. Number 1. Economy. By far the biggest change concern is the worldwide economic landscape. It has changed the most over the past 4 months, as the COVID-19 pandemic has had an impact on many people losing their jobs or getting lower incomes due to the coronavirus crisis. Unemployment rates have risen all over the world. In the United States, the proportion of people out of work has hit 10.4%, according to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, indicating an end to a decade of expansion for one of the world's greatest economies. But China and France, for instance, have seen improvements in hiring rates as shutdowns eased, according to the networking platform LinkedIn. So for the economy to grow, we need more jobs, but unfortunately the IMF stated that the global economy will shrink by 3% this year, and this is the worst decline since the Great Depression of the 1930s. So guys, we end our video here. Share your thoughts about the things that 2020 has changed forever. Let us know, how do you deal with the coronavirus pandemic? Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos such as this. As always, thanks for watching.